Welcome to this week's episode of the Punk Popcast. This week we have brand news, Deja Entendu. Welcome to another episode of the Punk Popcast. I am one of your hosts. My name is Brad, and with us I have our guy Jason. How are you this evening, Jason?
I'm doing okay. Not looking forward to cleaning up after the snow tomorrow. How are you tonight?
I'm doing better than you because I don't have to clean up after the snow tomorrow. So, looking forward to a nice day of about 75 degrees, I think. So
our listeners are going to get sick of hearing me talk about snow until after spring, let me tell you.
After the last episode's finally, okay, the snow is gone.
That groundhog better be right next week, let me tell you.
But by that time, I'm going to be complaining about the heat. So it is what it is. So anyway, but like I said, this week we have brand news, Deja Entendu. And so first off, I have to say, my very first listen of this album, didn't like it. Wasn't into it, wasn't feeling it, didn't get it. And then fast forward 2 years later, and I was in love, absolutely infatuated with everything about it. Every little thing about this album, I was just like blown away by it. What was your first impression, Jason?
So I can tell you where I was when I got it. I got it at the Wall, if you remember that store, with their delightful stickers. I have CDs that they can never replace now because of those. But I got it based on the quiet things that nobody knows. And man, that album just sounded so different outside of that song, which makes total sense why it was the single. But then you go through a breakup like 2 weeks after you get the album, and the album makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
So this is I got it in October of 2003. It is a very post-breakup 2004 album for me. So
I get it. And you know what? It really is like perfect. And I remember reading one of the first reviews about this album was that Brand New really tapped into the live journal crowd was what the review said. And I was like, I'm not sure what that means. And I got a little bit older. I was like, I know exactly what that means. And yes, they did.
I was not on Live Journal. I was on Zanga and then later Sit Diary. So I get it. I lived it to some degree.
I mean, they did, right? Like they crushed it. That's exactly what they did.
Oh,
so
everyone was just quoting their songs on these platforms. Let me tell you.
I'm sure they were. And I stayed away from like the plague because I had one friend who did a live journal. I was like, yeah, no, that's dumb. I don't, just because the things that he was sharing were like, that's like too much, man. But anyway, I'm actually going to go ahead and lead us off. Since we're on the subject, let's talk about the quiet things that no one ever knows. This is one of my favorite songs on this album. This is I think one of the best tracks. It is so good, start to finish. It's the first song on the album I learned to play on my guitar, strangely enough. And it's a good one. And I think I talked before 2 weeks ago when we talked about Brand New, we talked about your favorite weapon, that this is one of those songs where like if you sit down at a party and you just start picking out that intro, anybody who's familiar with this genre is going to come over and be like, oh my gosh, I love this song. And anybody who doesn't is going to be like, oh, that's very catchy. I like that. And you've got their ear already. And so you can kind of perform a little bit, right? And so I have my best friend who I would sit and play the song with, and we would be at social gatherings, not necessarily parties, but just like groups of people. And we would play, and between the two of us, we know every word to the song, especially when we play it. And we would sing like the two parts in the chorus, So keep the blood in your head and keep your feet on the ground. Today's the day we get tired. Today's the day we dropped out, everything, start to finish. And it was just like, we just had everybody's ear. And it was a ton of fun. It was a whole lot of fun. But really what this song comes down to for me is the nostalgia of learning the song on the guitar, and B, just the feel good. It's an easy listen. The verses are just so smooth, and the chorus is a lot of fun the way that they sing it because it's different than anything else up to this point, at least with Brand New. Really, it felt a little bit more Taking Back Sunday, but which I love, right? Because they're one of my favorite bands ever. But yeah, it was a little bit different than Brand New. It was kind of a new style, and it was really catchy and easy to listen to and really bring you in as well.
So I mean, this was the song I think that got a lot of people into this album, because this album really broke them far more than Your Favorite Weapon did, just based on
Yeah.
sales. Um, but for me, my memory of this song is cutting class from community college with the bassist of my band, who I met at community college, and we're talking about our band that hasn't even formed yet, right? Like it's just me and him writing songs and talking about this. And we're in his car and we're working on our harmonies to this song specifically. So that's my memory of this song, like just those beginning days of our band and
Hmm.
working on how we harmonize to the chorus of this song. So it's funny that your story was about the chorus of the song and then my memory is about the chorus of the song.
I mean, it's a great chorus. It's really good, like start to finish. And like I said, this is one of my absolute favorite songs ever. It's so good. Anytime it comes on, I probably have to listen to it 2 or 3 times just to get my fill, you know. And that's one of the things that I really love about it is that it holds up. It's timeless. Ever since I really started, like I said, appreciating this album, this has been one of my favorite songs on the album, uh, from the get-go. All right, what do you have next for us, Jason?
You know what? I'll lead off with the last song on the album because I love this song. It's long been a song that I've championed. One of my friends, his name's Jesse, and he might be listening to this. Ironically, his name's Jesse. Um, he loves Brand New as well. And we've often talked about this album while killing time at work. And this was one we both talked about a lot. Um, it's so against type to me of everything else on this album. It is
Tell him what song it is before you get too deep.
Thanks. Play Crack the Sky is the song
There we
I'm
go.
talking about. I got rolling. I'm sorry.
No, it's good. It's good. I thought you were like doing a really big build up, and then I was like, oh, he just burned past it. It's fine. We'll do it.
I love that the song is a story.
Hmm.
I love that it's supposedly about an actual ship, the Andrea Gale, that was supposedly lost at sea in 91. But to me, it's got this is so weird. It's got like a wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald kind of vibe. Like it's telling this ominous story in this very soothing kind of way.
Hmm.
And you can see everything happening in the way Jesse's singing the song. It is just an amazing song, and it's probably the most underrated song on this album to me personally. I could, someone else could think differently, but I think this
I
is
could
an
see
absolute
that.
gem.
I could see that. And you know what? Now that you mentioned it, like that, I had never thought about that it being a story about a ship, but it kind of has that feeling, the way that it kind of goes back and forth, like an ebb and flow within the melody. Um, and that's one thing that I had never thought about until, like, right when you mentioned that, I was like, I can feel that. Like, thinking about the song, you can feel the way that goes, and that's really cool. One of the things I love about the album version of the song is I feel like Jesse Lacey just walks into the studio, picks up his guitar, plays the song, sets it down, and they do. And whether that's how it went down or not, that's the illusion that they've created with the theater of the mind with the album, with their editing and everything. It's cool.
Well,
If
even go ahead.
Go
Sorry.
ahead. Oh,
No,
I was just gonna say that whether that happened, like I said, whether it happened or not, it's really cool that they painted that picture of it, that he just walks in, performs, and walks out. Go ahead.
well, you touched on something that I think helps make this song stand out. There's almost like a feeling to the sound of the song, like there's a fuzz to it that isn't there on the rest of the album.
Mm-hmm.
There's a almost like an analog feeling to the song when you listen to it.
Yeah.
And that makes it stand out that much more than the rest of the song.
Yeah, it's kind of, I do think that's, now you mention it, I think that it has like a scratch track kind of feel, that maybe they did just have him walk in and record it. Just
Yeah.
straight up guitar in his hand with a microphone in front of him, rather than laying down the guitar track and then singing over, two different tracks. I think it's all just one track piece together. I think that might be why it has that sound, and I like it. I dig it. I like it a lot. It's a good song. And it's not one that, like you said, it's underrated. It's not one I would have immediately thought to pick to put on my list, but I'm glad you did because it's a great song. It's a
I'm here to
really good one. All right. I'm gonna go with my next song. I gotta go with I don't even know how to say this. I want to say it's pronounced Guernica. I don't know, but this song crushes, like absolutely kills, rocks from start to finish. I'm a sucker for a good bass line, right? And the bass line in the song is so good, just like so strong. And the way that it goes into the verse where it's kind of like it's really low and then it goes into the pre-chorus of, is this the way a toy feels when its batteries run dry? I am the watch you always wear, but you forget to wind. First off, those are great lines. They're outstanding, but the delivery is outstanding for the words. And then the way it goes into the chorus and just rocks out. This is a song that I've always wanted to see played live. Ever since I heard it, I just like, yeah, that would be rad at a show, like watching them play that song live. And I've never gotten to see Brand New live. I've missed out on them several times over the course of my life. And this is probably a song that I will never get to see live, but maybe if I get a band together someday, we'll play it and I'll get to live out that dream. But I don't know. That'll probably never happen.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm just being realistic here, Jason. That's all.
I understand being realistic. No, this is a great song. And it's funny you pointed out that pre-chorus, because I could remember when the album came out, I had a subscription to Revolver, which was a fantastic alt-rock, pop-punk, metal magazine, far more professional looking than Metal Edge and Alternative Press. But they had a really great article and interview with Brand New, and the writer and interviewer of the article made a point to mention that pre-chorus specifically in regards to the lyrics of the album. So that's always stuck with me, is that article with this song.
What'd they say about it? Or like, was it the writer who said it, or did he ask the band about
it?
It
was the writer who, when they were talking about the maturity of the lyrics compared to Your Favorite Weapon, that pre-chorus is one they specifically talked about. I wish I had that magazine now, but it's almost 20 years old.
It's old and disintegrated.
It's probably, yeah, somewhere. But it just that stuck with me ever since, is that as a 19-year-old kid reading that article, well, this is, supposedly really great songwriting. And obviously, after listening to the album, yeah, it is really great songwriting.
It is. And one of the things I've always thought was cool about this is that I like when bands pull from other areas of pop culture, whatever, or like literature to bring into their music. Like Census Fail is named after a book, right? And also like religion, or I guess spirituality, not so much religion, but Guernica, that is the name of a Picasso painting. And when I learned that, I was like, oh my gosh, I got that question right on my art class quiz because I had the connection. That was the only one I got right. So, but yeah, I was pretty proud of myself for remembering that one because of that. but no, I think that's a cool place to draw the name from. But let's go, before we go to our break, let's cover our consensus track for this album. You down with that?
I'm fine with that.
Okay, so it's actually
real quick.
Oh, go ahead.
Going back to your pick just now, they've played that song live 125 times.
And I have not seen any of them.
That's out of 521 concerts.
Wow.
I had to look it up on Setlist FM after you mentioned if it was ever played live.
Well, I don't like it. I'm sure they had. I was sure that they had. I just had never been there, but because, like I said, it's one that I always wanted to see played live because of the build and the chorus. Like, I'd have lost my mind straight up. But anyway, let's go into our consensus track real quick before we go to break. So we have actually two tracks. It's the intro track, which is really just not a whole lot of anything, right? To Tao Tao, I think is how you say that. And then Sick Transit, Gloria, Glory Fades is the track after that. But that's really the one that I want to talk about, Jason. Like, you mentioned that we needed to include them both together, which I understand because they do kind of blend together as one track, right?
Well, I mean, I just want to touch on Tao Tao real quick. I think for what it is, lyrically, it might be some of the most erotic lyrics, sexual lyrics that aren't really sexual at all ever written, because it gives you that visual that leads into Sick Transit Gloria.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I hadn't thought about that. For me, it was just like musically, it was a seamless transition. You know, for a long time I listened to just a burned copy of the CD, so I had no idea about the track list or anything like that. You know, names of any of the songs, how it was set up. I thought this was just a long build for one of the greatest songs ever written. You know, but really, there's only 3 lines of that song that are repeated over and over again. I'm sinking like a stone in the sea and burning like a bridge for your body. That is it. That's 2 lines. But the way that it's delivered, the way that it's presented with the music is outstanding. But Sick Transit Gloria, Glory Fades, it doesn't get a whole lot better than this song, in my opinion. Like, period. Because there is poetry to it. There is absolute perfect imagery, and it is quite relatable.
Very.
Right? Like, everything about this song speaks to high school life. We've all lived this. You know, if not the whole thing verbatim, like, I would say to some degree, right?
Yeah, I mean, I said to you, I mean, in the beginning, this to me is a breakup. This makes me think of a specific time in my life, and specifically a breakup. This is the song that makes me think about that relationship probably more than any song.
Yeah. And the other thing about this song that I love, though, is, and it's a theme throughout this album, and it gets to be a theme more with Brand New as you get in the, like, later albums, is the build. The build is really good. Another outstanding bass line, and then it goes into that chorus that just rocks out with the fever, the focus, the reasons that I had to believe you weren't too hard to sell. You know, that the way that it goes in, the delivery of everything is just like awesome. That it builds this, like I said, there's an image of this couple. I always imagined at a party, right? That they're getting ready to hook up, whatever, and then it's just like all of a sudden it's just like everything is going on in his head all at once, just like chaos. And then there's like a little bit of serenity and sense of it as it goes back into the verse. And, you know, but that's the way I've always imagined it. It's the way it's always been pictured in my head.
I've always loved the line, he is the lamb, she is the slaughter. He's moving way too fast and only wanted was to hold her. I mean, it really speaks to a not confident guy far in over his head.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with a lot of guys who are fans of this genre of music, that's extremely relatable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. And it's just one of those great songs that it's like I said, you can relate to so much of it, regardless of like your life that you lived in high school, because this is like teenage angst put into one place for me. And I feel like that's why we had to talk about this track. Initially, I had it as one of my tracks, but I'm glad that we were able to put it as our consensus. But with that, let's go ahead and take a quick break. When we get back, I have one more. Jason has 2 more songs.
9+ Us presents the Baseball Together podcast with your hosts, Blackjack Brad and Kansas City Little Big Briggy Blue Eyes. Weekly episodes for the entire baseball family where we talk all baseball all the time. Available on all your favorite podcast apps and on YouTube. Come join our baseball family where we do baseball together.
The Another Sports Podcast is the home of sports talk for everyone. Every other week you can catch David and Jason as they talk about all things sports. From current events to classic moments and everything in between. You can find the Non-Linear Sports Podcast on Anchor.fm, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, and more. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review.
Welcome back to the Punk Popcast. Today we're talking about Deja Entendu by Brand New. Jason is going to kick us off for our second segment today. He has 2 more tracks left. Jason, take it away.
All right, so my next pick from this album is going to be The Boy Who Blocked His Own Shot. This has kind of always been a favorite of mine from the album. I've always loved the lyrics of it. And I've mentioned that this album, particularly for me, is a breakup album, but this song in particular makes me actually think of a different girl I dated after the breakup. So it was a prior ex who we decided to try and give it another shot 2 years later. She's a great person. We are like oil and water. And this song, even at the time as we were trying to get it to work the second time, always made me think of her. Call me a safe bet. I'm betting I'm not. I'm glad that you can forgive. Only hoping as time goes, you can forget. Like, I'm like, oh, this is how it's going to be. But that said, my own sentimental enjoyment of the song notwithstanding, this is a fantastic song. The lyrics are just chef's kiss.
Yeah.
It begins with, if it makes you less sad, I will die by your hand. Like, this is a guy kind of atoning for the things he's done, but at the same time, he can't walk them back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and in the next part of the second stanza of that first verse, it says, "I'll grow old, start acting my age, be a brand new day in a life that you hate." To me, that's like a guy like, I'll do anything you need me to. Like, I'll leave everything behind. I'll grow up if you really want me to, as much as I don't want to. But yeah, no, and the chorus too, like that's really the part to me that like brings everything home. Is call me a safe bet. I'm betting I'm not. Like that's such a great line. And like I said, with going with the rest of that, pleading with an ex to get back together, to me is like, I think it's a great song. It's so mellow and another really easy listen. Like a lot of this album to me is like, it's just really easy to listen to.
It's got all the what we talked about with Your Favorite Weapon and specifically Mixtape. All the for as rough around the edges as Mixtape was, Mixtape is all over this album as far as the biting lyrics and that just beautiful acoustic music.
Yeah, and I feel like this was like Your Favorite Weapon was a lot harder than this. You know, like there are hints of that in this album, you know, but a lot of it went a lot more mellow, the direction of Mixtape, and I feel like that's really the way Brand New actually wanted to be, because going forward, like with The Devil and God Are Raging Inside Me, has a lot of tones from this, but still like pushes that direction even farther, right? And they continue to push that, and I feel like this is really the identity that Brand New wanted to have from the beginning. That maybe this is what Jesse Lacey wanted this band to be, but maybe Your Favorite Weapon is what was popular, right? And they understood that.
And it makes total sense because Jesse's such a huge fan of Morrissey and the Smiths that so much of this stuff falls in line with that. Like, I have a friend, he's 50, and he's a huge Morrissey and the Smiths fan. And I said, you might like this album. He borrowed it back in 2006 when we first met. And he loves Brand New because
that's cool.
How much it reminds him of the Smiths and Morrissey.
There you go. I mean, yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. All right, my last track today is this song. It's so good. So many good lines. Okay, I believe you, but my Tommy gun don't. This is, I mean, I say it that every single one of these is like my favorite song on this album, but these are definitely my top 3, top 4 with Sick Transit, Gloria. So there are some really, really good lines in this song. But first, we have to address the guitar. Simple, basic, minimalist, and so fantastic. Like, it's one of my favorite, like, this is another one I learned how to play on my guitar because I was like, I can't not. I can tell by just listening to it that it's really easy. It's super easy, but having been like relatively new to playing the guitar still at that time, I was like, oh, I've never thought of using these chords this way, right? That it's creative and it's basic, but it sounds really, really good. The line that I have to address before I get to anything else, though, is in verse 2. This is war. Every line is about who I don't want to write about anymore. Hope you come down with something they can't diagnose, don't have the cure for. I love that line so much. Like, I was walking around singing it one time, and I had a friend, he's like, that's like really bad. I was like, I know, right? It's so great. It's so good.
It's such a great post-breakup song.
It is.
And it's not a breakup song. That's even better.
I know. I know. And I remember hearing that. I was like, I know who that's about.
And I got to say, I think this could have been the consensus pick, because I think we both feel very strongly about this song as well as Sic Transit Gloria. Really, this whole album could have been a consensus song, but
I know. And that was one thing we were talking about too, is that like, as we we're going through, it's like, we almost could have taken the Fall Out Boy from Under the Cork Tree approach, because it's an essential album. And also the whole thing is so strong start to finish that there are no bad tracks and there's no wrong decisions. We just probably could have glossed over Me versus Maradona versus Elvis, as I did 2 episodes ago.
I always loved the line, all the other boys all promised, sorry I told, I just needed you to know. Yeah, I felt that. That's great stuff right there. But I guess because this is part 3 of a 3-part series, we got to touch on the fact that this song is about Adam from Taking Back Sunday.
Yeah.
and I think this is because by this point, Jesse and John had made up, and John was on his way out of Taking Back Sunday because Adam had cheated on John's sister. So I think it's Jesse sticking up for his friend's sister.
And his friend, I'm sure.
Yeah. And this
I'm sure his friend is offended by it.
This is a really like petty time in both bands' careers, because Brand New was selling a shirt that said mics are for singing, not swinging.
I know. I love that shirt too. I've seen it. I've seen that shirt. I had a friend who had it. Even though he's a huge Taking Back Sunday fan, he wore the shirt all the time.
So, I mean, both bands, well, Adam and Jesse were taking pot shots at each other, and Adam is still taking pot shots at Jesse, which is hilarious all these years later.
That is really funny. So I have to address the chorus. We're concentrating on falling apart. We were contenders. We're throwing the fight. I just want to believe. Repeated in us. That to me is a really good chorus. Not so much about like we talked about like breaking up. Like, this is a really good breakup song, but that chorus to me feels more like Friends.
Yeah.
Right. That like the rest of the song sounds like a breakup, like a really harsh breakup, like you're really sticking it to an ex-girlfriend. But then you get to the chorus, you're like, this is a friend he's talking about. Because that's the kind of stuff you go through with friends. And that was one thing that I thought was really cool about the way the song was put together. So anywho,
fantastic.
Go ahead and bring us home, Jason.
I'm gonna go with my personal favorite song on this album. It's Jaws' theme, Swimming. Right out the box, once I really got into this album, I've always loved this song for the visuals lyrically. And we all know I'm a lyric guy, but I love the visuals in this song. I mean, I listen to it, I hear what sounds to be detectives trying to figure out a murder. You know,
that feeling doesn't like you. I can see that with the guitar part at the beginning and the intro, like two people just like walking up to a crime scene, like, what do we have?
Tobacco and peppermint dusting for fingerprints of film in her eyes from the glow. There's all kinds of really great lines in this.
When it got cold outside, smoke beneath the playground lights.
Concrete and water. She's looking for her daughter at midnight in torrential downpour. I mean, there's really great visuals in this song, and that's always stuck with me. My personal favorite line is everything I said about how messed up your head is got cut up and left in bits and pieces on the cutting room floor. Like that's such a clever line. And it's perfect. I love this song so much. And one last thing I really love about this song is that final bridge. Take the picture from the wall. You think that nothing matters. Take the picture from the frame. It's a long ways to the floor. I love the harmonies in that. The way they sing that bridge is just spectacular. I can't even really put words to how great I think it is.
Yeah, this song is really well put together. I think I brought this song up last season, in our first season, where we talked about, I think we were talking about Mayday Parade. They had a song that sounded a lot like this at the beginning.
Yes, you did talk about that. Yes.
Yeah. And this is one of my, this is one of the things about this album too. As a guitar player, like that's obviously what I listen to a lot, right? That's what I pay attention to a lot in music. And so I picked those up a lot. And immediately, like I said, with that album, that I was like hooked because of that familiar guitar riff. It was distracting because I was trying to figure out where it was from. But once I figured it out, I was like, yeah, I'll listen. Absolutely. And that's this album has some of the best hooks. And this is one of my favorites at the beginning too. It's just that little, like I talked about, like that little step at the beginning where it's, it does create a little bit of an image of people approaching a crime scene, inquisitive.
That's always the vibe. Ever since I first listened to it, that's the vibe I've had. And I can't shake it to this day.
That's really funny. I never thought about that before. I like it a lot. It's good. It's a good.
And I don't
visual.
mean like the Pink Panther sneaking around. Like,
I get it a little bit. I get a little bit. Like that's where like
thing,
the intro comes in. It's like a light-footed detective with his magnifying glass. What do you say, gumshoe? Something like that. But anyway, I think though we can agree, Jason, on our essential pop punk rating for this album. I think we can just put it up as 100.
I'm there with you.
You've described this album before. Like, how do you describe this album in your own words? I mean, I think you've said it's the best album of the genre, or is it the one that encapsulates the genre the best?
I think I've said it's the best album of the genre. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you did too, and I absolutely agree because it is so strong, start to finish, and to me, it is what really perfectly encapsulates the genre. Everything about it, emo, right?
Right.
Emo is part of the pop punk genre, and it is a very emotional album, start to finish, and it's outstanding. And I love every single bit of it, every lyric, despite the one track that is very off-putting. That is a whole lot of fun to play on the guitar. But anyway, let us know what you think about it. It did not age well at all. But let us know what you think about this album, about Deja Entendu by Brand New. Reach out to us on the Twitter machine at Punk Popcast. You can reach me personally at Jojo Cornrow, and Jason is
at XJasonBagX.
Very good. Excellent. And that will do it for this week. We'll catch you next week.